Howdy from San Francisco.
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm here with Alex Philippidis, business editor from Gen. Do I have that right? It's been
Yeah,
a while. Yeah.
Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology News. I'm here with Jonathan Grinstein, uh, PhD, North American editor, Inside Precision Medicine.
Yeah. So great to run into you here we're at the Barnes Hotel in the thick of JP Morgan. And just before we start recording, you told me about some exciting news that you got to hear yesterday.
Yeah, the announcement's been out since early Monday. NVIDIA naming a bunch of collaborations. Two chief ones of interest to Jen, since I am the man from Jen, is a $1 billion 5 year collaboration with Eli Lilly to develop a co-innovation lab. They call it. They're going to base that somewhere in the Bay Area and focus on AI for drug discovery, the development. It's Lilly's further engagement into AI. Back in October, they announced a big supercomputer with NVIDIA infrastructure in that. But what's interesting was, the announcement's been out, but I chose to, right after going to the fireside chat, which to the credit of the NVIDIA folks, they invited me to, and it was a great event. It was crowded as anything. Had a lot of different whether it's AI folks, pharma and biotech people as well, investor types were there. It was a good mix, and the place was the Fairmont, San Francisco. That's a place in history, at least to me, is because it's where Tony Bennett first sang "I Left My Heart."
Yeah, that's important stuff.
Yeah, so that always it's a killer hill to walk up there from where the conference is at the Westin St. Francis,
Right.
and right, so overlooking Union Square, just to give a lay of the land, if you will. So there are when you cover an event like this, you have companies encamped in a whole bunch of different hotels or co-working spaces all around downtown, and sometimes all around means you're walking 15, 20, 22 minutes up hills and or down hills where you gotta watch your feet there. But the NVIDIA event was interesting because Jensen Huang, the founder and CEO, and David Ricks, the chair and CEO of Eli Lilly, got into how they came to start dealing with each other, how they came to get to know each other. And it turns out in 2018, that's a year after Ricks took over as first the CEO and then adding the chair title at Lilly that same year. Um, in 2018, Jensen Huang stopped by to talk to Lilly's management about this highfalutin new technology called artificial intelligence. And he said the looks on their faces. You remember at the event that provoked a lot of laughter, and he sort of read into their minds by just blurting out one word: nonsense. And from there, but David Rick said very quickly after, it blew my mind. And just from some human interaction like that, you have this $1 billion deal that was announced yesterday. That took if you said that's 8 years.
Yeah.
It shows you how in biotech, compared to other businesses, the time frames tend to be glacial, if not
Yeah.
years.
Definitely when it comes to like drug development and whatnot. But it's interesting that with AI, it took really long because there's been a lot of money being thrown at AI, especially in biotech, and so they've probably been cautious and watching.
And as I mentioned in my report for Jen, we posted that Tuesday afternoon. Lilly has the money for its share of the collaboration because they've made roughly between the two GLP-1 GIC, these are dual agonist drugs, Mounjaro for diabetes, Zepbound for obesity. Between those two drugs, in the first 3 quarters of 2025, they racked up $25 billion.
Chump
Just
change.
yeah,
I think they were had the greatest revenue out of all pharma companies. It was either them or they're always in the top 2 or 3.
yeah, they are, and they reached what was it, the $1 trillion market capitalization a few weeks back. So, yeah, they are, and it's a field where yeah, Novo Nordisk came out with the first GLP
Right.
ones commercially anyway, and yeah, their story in the last year has been one of turmoil. CEO change. They had layoffs in September, and it's acknowledged that at least while Novo brought innovation, Lilly brought at least a business to sense to push it forward and faster. One of the things that David Ricks talked about last night was that um, one thing Lilly did since he became CEO was try to speed up the lumbering process of drug development.
Yeah.
It's a cliche, 10 to 12 years, up to $2 billion plus dollars per. That's the conventional cycle. The promise of AI is that it's supposed to slash that time and thus slash the money that companies spend. We're still waiting to see how that really turns out, and it's more. Uh, it's not saying that the savings aren't there, but just how much of a savings and whether the reality matches up with some of the rhetoric is something
Yeah.
I can't wait to kind of see how it plays out.
Right. We'll definitely be watching to see. Right, because this stuff's just going into play. I mean, talking about I think we bumped into each other very briefly over dumplings at the In Silico Medicine
Yes.
event, and that is they're all AI, right? Everything is generated. There are a lot of I think their entire preclinical pipeline doesn't
Yeah.
even like really involve a human.
Well,
It's
yeah, they use, I mean, they have robotics in China, for example. They've got a pipeline. I think the last time I checked was 31 candidates that they've uh, disclosed, and Alex Zavaronkov, he's very visible
yeah,
at this event. If you don't know him, he's got that big in silico medicine vest, and a lot of his staff do too.
yeah,
But he rocks it.
yeah. Oh, and they had one of the more interesting pieces of swag. I don't know if you grabbed it, but it was like a safari hat with the In Silico name.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know how
looked
often
at some interesting stuff. They had
a
a
panda.
panda, a
Yeah.
little mini panda, and so so that's they almost seem to specialize in that as much. Well, they've got a lot of pipeline news as well.
All right.
They
I
they
mean,
announced
they have a program
they
called
announced a collaboration with Eli Lilly. Gosh, week or actually, yeah, I want to say a few weeks back,
Mhm.
$888 million up to is so again some potentially big-ish money, although
Yeah.
not as big as these things are getting.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned 2 huge AI moves by one of the biggest, if not the biggest, pharmaceutical companies out there. You did mention Novo Nordisk. I actually will be getting to talk to their SVP, I believe.
That Ulu?
Well, no, Uli changed, actually.
Oh,
He gave up his position, and he's
okay.
trying out something new. Love Uli Stilts, great guy.
Yeah.
Have a podcast episode with him. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I know. I interviewed him a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He's very well esteemed in the
Yeah.
pharma community.
But I'm definitely looking forward to find out what they have to say. A good chunk of their pipeline is about obesity drugs, semaglutide, ways to like pair semaglutide with other kinds of obesity or metabolism compounds that address those indications. But they do, I notice in their pre-pipeline or their pre-IND phase, have some rare disease things with potentially even some genetic medicines. So I'm definitely curious to see what they're doing there. Uh, the one kind of announcement that I did want to share that it was laid out about a few days I think before leading up to JPM was I met with the team Mammoth Bio, so the team from that came out of Jennifer Doudna's lab,
Yeah.
CRISPR, and they've been it, they got hot because of their CRISPR diagnostic around COVID, and then they kind of had hands in all sorts of different buckets, and they announced their first clinical candidate and will be dosing um, this year, if not already, which is very cool to see the whole story from, discovery. Some of these people in the lab in Jennifer Doudna's lab, um, during that whole discovery phase, and then turning it into medicine.
Yeah. We've covered that Mammoth going back a few years
Right.
and really early in their journey. So I think one thing at least I've been wanting to see is when they go toward clinical candidates and which indications they choose.
Yeah.
If there's that's key. So I'm glad to see they've made that progress.
Yeah.
And I'll be looking to read that. What's your lay of the land here in San Francisco? What have you been finding?
Well, one thing I have noticed is actually not only is the sun out this year, but the attitude, I think, has changed. I mean, the last few years have been a little grim, a little bit. Let's just try to stay alive. If the boat sinks, we can't do anything. And some people, all the companies with some solid business strategies that got lean, that focused in on programs instead of doing everything under the sun, have come out into a pretty promising place. I don't know if we've gotten the same.
I've gotten the vibe that there's a lot of upbeat attitudes, especially among bigger companies. It seems the bigger, the happier. To kind of sum it up. I know that with smaller biotechs who have been uh, writing out, trying to hold on to capital they got 3, 4 years ago, and that for them it's been a challenge raising money because a lot of times the capital goes to fewer deals but bigger amounts and in later stages because well it's the pipeline candidates are more de-risked because they've been in the clinic, they've had more data to show, and from a business perspective, well, the company's been able to function or show that to other investors. That's why you see more activity in the later phase. But you do see deals for technologies of note. Some are AI, some are good old cancer oncology drug development, more neuroscience development. I remember writing for Jen, this was about 10 years ago, about how bigger biopharmas were fleeing the neuroscience space. And there were. It was a series of announcements say they were giving up candidates, they were just deprioritizing,
Right.
however they chose to say they were bailing out. But now you see quite a reversal, and with some data to boot, and the promise, at least, that neuro disease will finally get its due.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so much more to talk about.
Yeah.
In true JPM fashion, I'm going to be late to my next meeting.
Yeah.
But so glad we got a chance to talk and looking forward to what more you have to share. We'll be doing a Gen Live next week with
Yes.
Juliana Lemure.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun to get a full hour to talk about what we saw here on the ground at JP Morgan.
Sounds good. Looking forward. Take care.